Hi, guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of Circling the Rabbit Hole podcast with me, Dr. Claire Kinuthia. And as you know by now, this is a very safe space for conversations to do with our reproductive, sexual, and mental health. And I'm feeling very radical this week because of the guests I have on set. I'm so excited because in the space that we're in Kenya today, it almost feels like more than ever before, we are unwanted here as women. And I'd like to just hold space for conversations just for anyone who's watching who's feeling really disheartened, the young women out there who are just watching what's happening, and it almost feels wrong to exist at this point because we can't seem to do anything right. And I'd really, really like for you to tune in and listen in to the very end of this episode, and hopefully we shall encourage you, if nothing else, that there's still hope for us. And the more pushback we're seeing, it's probably because of all the hard work that's already been done by those who came before us. So it's important that we sort of step into their big footsteps, put on our big girl pants, and take on the mantle. So this week I have three amazing young feminists on set, and as is the tradition on this podcast, I'll ask you to each introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you do, and the reason we're here today, basically.
Thank you, Dr. Claire. Hi, everyone. My name is Zawede Nzisa. I am a feminist activist. I'm a poet. I am a singer. And I have been working in Young Women's Leadership Institute as an communication and arts assistant. And I'm really excited to have this conversation today, and also just having spaces where we can continuously have these conversations are really important. Because right now where we are at, as you said, it's like we're being hated to that point, but it's not new. We've been hated ever since. We've been treated like goods. We've been treated like property ever since. And I mean, I'm tired, by the way. I don't feel like this is the world I need to live in, because like I always say, I'm here to have the human experience. If I'm here to have the human experience, why should you put any limitations as to what I should be?
Yeah. I love that. Okay. My next guest.
Hello everyone. My name is Maryliz Biubwa. I am a human rights activist and human rights defender, a black, queer, radical, angry, intersectional feminist.
I love
and
that.
all of those have a reason why they got there and remain to be. I am a founder of an organization called the Queer Republic, and also work closely with YWLI at the board level, but also in different, activities within YWLI. I'm excited to be here because as a queer person, as a lesbian, and I know that is very foreign to many people, but
As you break
welcome.
the internet.
Yeah. as a lesbian, existing in this body, having a human experience that partly is a woman experience, that partly is a queer experience, we are living in such scary times, right? And I feel like over, beyond and above wanting, the laws to change, over, beyond and above wanting to hold accountable, the duty bearers to do their work as it is supposed to be. It's really in the heart of the stories of people like myself and the two people I'm seated here, but also with everyone here, that human beings exist in different multiplicities. And the fact that the more time goes, the more allegedly we become better, more learned, we have technology, we have, access to information and all that kind of stuff, the more single-minded we become, and that is so scary. And so conversations like this hopefully are supposed to, open us up back, because the reverse is happening. While many people think back then, Africans were more reserved and all that kind of stuff, women were so, submissive and all that kind of stuff. No, back then women enjoyed their full rights, and because they existed fully, nobody had to question anything. But as time goes,
we're limited more and more.
More dusties are coming up and they can't handle a moment of just a woman existing and living in their truth, in their power, without harming anyone and all that. So I guess it wouldn't have come at a better time.
Right.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here.
It's so difficult to speak after powerful women, but yeah, my name is Zaha Indimuli. I'm a Pan-Africanist, importantly, so therefore I'm a Pan-African feminist. I'm the founder and executive director of a Mali organization. This is a group of young professionals. What we do is that we work around solutions in health, specifically sexual reproductive health and rights, inclusive youth development, green growth and circular economy, and the intersectionality of what sustainability would look like for young people. I think today's conversation to me, it's literally touching at home. At the brinks of working to support the national coordination team on the end femicide movement, and just the characteristics of what having a national crisis on women and a terroristic attack on women looks like. It's very dangerous to have a society whereby when women issues are being brought up, it's a time now we are still blaming the same women on the same thing that they're going through. And it showcases a lot of sickness in the society right now, because again, we don't have to diagnose things in the hospital for us to know that something is wrong with our societies. We're having sick individuals making sick decisions and making sick rationalities on what women should be, what women's experience should look like. And you see that whole analysis whereby we're having a lot of people wanting to name and to project what women's experiences are necessarily makes more and more women fear to live their own experiences fully, and importantly to also speak about their experiences. And that's why these cases are just currently blowing up. Like Zawede said, we've been hated for a very long time, and stand a Kenyan man anywhere, not all of them, again, because they have this syndrome of saying not all men like and I speak as a Gen Z. This is a time and age on a generation that really doesn't care about that. It's a matter of, I'm going to call you out on the thing that I'm supposed to call you out on, and your emotions are none of my business. For as long as I speak truth to power, the rest is totally up to you. But importantly, right now, where people are quiet when injustices are happening on women, the religious leaders are quiet when these things are raising up. It's just upon us. I'll speak for Gen Z and every other ally.
Quiet.
Yes. Everybody's quiet now. This is a time and age whereby you're finding young people that are not scared, because there's nothing to lose really. And we better die in truth, just like the Palestinians are, than to live in a whole mediocrity and lie. And I think that's importantly why I'm here.
Right, okay. So like I said, I'm excited because powerful voices are in the room today. Just to start us off, the one thing we have in common very strongly here is that we're all feminists. But the other thing we know about, first of all, just the word, is how it's sort of viewed in such a negative light now. Every time you say the word feminist, it's like you're looking for a fight. Like instantaneously the response is, okay. That's wrong. That's bad. That's wrong. That you guys are already negative. And like you said, especially if now you take on the power of identifying as an angry feminist, we are hearing more and more that feminism is about putting everyone else down and lifting women up, or it's a bunch of angry women bitter about whatever is going on in their lives, and that's why we are holding them in such a negative light. But I'd like to hear from you guys, how would you define feminism? How do you define being a feminist yourself? And let's speak truth to that existence first of all.
Thank you. For me, I would define my feminism as just my existence, because first, when you're speaking about being a feminist, you're speaking about humanity, you're speaking about love, compassion, you're speaking about empathy. So for me, my feminism is about believing that I am here, like I said, for the human experience. And if you're here for the human experience, no one should limit what you should be. No one should define for you how you should act, how you should behave and all that. So for me to be a feminist, I just want to be free. I want to just belong, just to be, without having people to tell me, because you're a woman, you shouldn't do this, because you're a woman, you shouldn't do this. And the whole you're a feminist being a bad thing comes where people just have the wrong assumptions on feminism, because you speak up for what you truly want. And when people want to control you, they will try to make everything about you be you're bad, you're you know. So they're trying to put that picture just to control you, just so as you don't live to be your powerfulest being. Yeah.
True. What about you, Maryliz?
Oh, what about me? Barely do good women make history. So I think I sit comfortably in being a bad woman in the society. I'm comfortable with that. I want to be bad. I wish I could be worse. I am shameless. It's your opinion. It's okay to walk around holding that opinion. The only difference, however, is even with the whole concept of feminism being a bad thing, right? I know numbers will never lie, at least scientifically. We all went to school and we were taught numbers will never lie. How is it possible that being a feminist is a bad thing, but statistically, it's women that are being harmed, right? And who is harming them? It's men. Really, if you want to identify who is the bad person, it's really not a feminist. Because if you go to CID today and do a criminal investigation on my background, you won't.
You're not a criminal. You're not.
I am not a criminal. I don't go around harming anyone. And if, as Zawede has said, if me living in that truth, if me having a voice, if me saying, after the many experiences I've had since I was a child that changed me, that marked me, that, made me become the person that I am, have somehow given me a voice, and I can speak truth to the power of how I exist. I can speak truth to the power of how every other human being exists. How I can be able to live in a society where a man will tell you be safe because he knows you're around men, but when he sees you with your girlies, he'll harm you instead. I don't want to be good.
Wow.
I don't. I really don't want to be good.
Right,
feminism, it's as simple as making that choice to live your life, knowing other people are also making an active choice to live their life, and all of us living our life. The only thing that makes a difference is as long as you're not harming any other person. And like I said, it's all written in black in a very beautiful white wall. Men continue to harm. Men continue to harm because when we check into the statistics, we were having a conversation the other day when we had a meeting last week. And while we are keeping tabs with the cases of femicide, for example, in Kenya, mostly it's what has been reported. Mostly it's what we know.
Yeah.
But then one of the interesting conversations that came up is how we have Muslim communities, but also Hindu communities, and they have very strange ways of dealing with cases of violence. And for them, a lot of women are dying in femicide. And for them, by January, when we were saying we've lost 20 people, they were saying we've lost 56 women in the hands of femicide and killing. And that is not being kept tabs on out here because it's a thing that is done communally. It's a culture thing and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of conversation to be had when we have conversations about, femicide, but also generally just killing people. The favorite line, they're not all men, bandwagon like saying is, but men are also being killed. Then I always task them with, but who is killing men? Fellow men are killing men. A man will be dating me. Okay, maybe not. But a man will be dating me and then we are over and I moved on with another man and he will attack me and the other man, and it's, in retrospect, it's not women that are killing men. And even in cases where women are killing men, women are going to jail. Have you gone to Langata Women's Prison? I've been lucky between 2016 and around 2018. I had a number of projects we were doing with a friend of mine at the prison. That was around the time where we had this lady who was in prison, but she was really pretty. There was a pageant and she won and she broke the internet before her sentencing. You go there and there's a lot of women paying for self-defense. There's a lot of women who are paying because they were caught in a weird situation with a man and they had to defend themselves and they're there in jail, right? Barely would you walk around and meet a woman who is like an ex-convict who was jailed because they killed a man and all that kind of stuff. But men are everywhere. They're in jail, but they're also walking around and they're getting away with it and they're protected and they have access to power. And I remember in 2020 or 2021, at the height of COVID, I think it's 2020 when Usikimi and Jerry Migwi was posting about this story of a 3-day-old baby. And the baby had been defiled by the father. And it happens that the father is a son of some superior police something in Kenya. And the man is free today because he was protected by all that. So if you're going to say, oh, Maryliz, or just like generally women existing and living their life and their truth and working hard and doing that what they can, whatever it looks like, whether it's sex work, whether it's, you know, as they like to say, being a slave queen, as if it's supposed to be a bad thing. Who doesn't want soft life in this time and age, right? Like, no matter what you're doing, if women are gonna exist and do their thing and then they get killed, and then the conversation now begins to be, it's bad women, feminism is a bad thing. I don't want to be good. I want to stay bad because maybe staying bad will make you stay away from me. And if you stay away from me, somehow, twisted as it may sound, I'm safe.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I'm telling you, powerhouses.
Yeah.
And what about for you?
I like highlighting that they should know that there are several categories of feminists, so there are more bad women to find out. You just don't stop at the link of what feminists are. There's much more for you to dive in, just in case you need more women to hate. But importantly for me, being a feminist is a character. It's me standing up and choosing to speak truth, even when it's as difficult as it is. Because again, people don't understand that feminism by itself is a very difficult work. And not only is it a work, it's also a very difficult mission. Identifying with the troubles that women have to go through, even as a women ourselves, is very difficult. And so every single time we're in a position to do something different and in the aspects of equality. And when we talk about equality in the feminist space, people think it's just the pay. You know, I want you to give me the same wage as men. And you see, our quantitative analysis, or rather our unit of measurement, is not men. As we just feel like we want the value of the market at that particular current time. It's just that, of course, with the patriarchal systems that benefit men more than women, that necessarily make men feel as if they're more superior, or they deserve better than women do. And that's exactly where we stand our ground and we're like, yeah, exactly, that's not supposed to be existing. Patriarchal systems are now falling out. If you check nicely across the globe, they're falling out. And it's a good thing about standing in truth. They usually say, I hear in the Bible, I'm Muslim. So in the Bible, I hear this thing about zile vitu ziko kwa giza, they will always come up in the light. So this is us seeing the truthfulness of what patriarchy is. Patriarchy was there to demonize and centralize women into the worst of their existence. Because why weren't we not allowed to vote?
For example.
And you see, for me, I keep telling even like Maryliz, it's very narcissistic when we talk about these things as if they're wrong. Like, women existing and being there is not a bad thing. So for us to have to counteractively sit down and tell them why we're supposed to be here, yet we form half the world, does not make sense to me. And speaking of numbers, if we form half the world, then we're supposed to form half the representation, half the analysis. Actually, we're more than half. Let's even work with Kenya statistics. At a good 50-something%, just a little bit higher, then half our parliamentarians should be women, half our CSs should be women. And it's not in the aspect of us being given because of our gender. They need to understand that women go to school, women study, women get certified, women have these dignitaries, women have first-class honors, women go to school, women, this is the same women that give birth, that raise children, that raise societies. So that measurement, we're not bringing the feminist agenda because of the gender of who we are. Me being a woman is nothing I can ever be scared of or nothing I should be ashamed of. But we live in a society whereby 7 p.m. I'm panicking because I'm outside and I'm outside.
Like now it's even earlier.
6 p.m. is crazy. Why am I outside? That even if I'm going to, I'm going out clubbing or something, the fact that I know I'm supposed to be having a very comfortable dress, I have to think twice now because one my dress is somebody else's choice to have me, to have me harmed. And you see, it's so unfortunate that women have to pay for people's perceptions. I perceive you as a prostitute, therefore I can attack you whatsoever. And it's it's legal here. Like, what are you perceiving?
Right.
I perceive you as, you asking for it because you're wearing a short skirt.
Yeah.
Like, we constantly have to pay
True.
out of people's perceptions, and it's very scary.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what I'm saying, it's very much a character, because in the identity of us speaking, for the voices of women, it's extremely difficult to keep reminding yourself that, okay, first of all, because it gives me such an identity crisis. I'm like,
Yeah.
or maybe me as a woman, I am the problem.
The problem.
Yeah.
But then again, you sit down and be like, but I've done absolutely
done to fix the
nothing.
problem? Yeah.
So it's just me walking out and be like, hey, I'm a woman, voila.
Yeah.
A whole,
Problems.
a whole pot of
Immediately.
problems.
Yeah.
And you see, you can only imagine how we have to raise our girls. It's by the time you're age 7, don't sit like that, don't dress like that. If I have to change automatically how my daughter is in her existence for her to fit in a society that cannot keep its hands on itself, then it means as women we should find our own
There's
nation
already a
somewhere
problem. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
girls can afford to go through the synthesis of being girls from the word go,
Yeah.
and not having to always level up and model up because of something of someone's perception. So for me, it's to break all those generational curses. So as Gen Z, we have all these slangs, but importantly say it is what it
You guys are
is.
really keeping us on our toes,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
and these conversations are brought up because we're tired of the chokehold that comes with me having to always be very much at arms. And even in the femicide movement, the one thing I keep saying, I have to be up at arms for the men that I don't know that are outside, but equally I have to be up in arms for the men that I equally live with inside my own house, because I don't know when exactly the devil is gonna turn, and I can't wait for me to be another statistic. So it has to end with me, with my voice, with my mind and my strength. If it has to be me standing on top of Supreme Court gates once again to fight for the movement, then so be it, because I'm not about to raise. I want to have 12 children personally, and I told God half of them should be women.
Right.
And I don't want to have to raise my kids in the same analysis that I was raised in. I don't want to be told what I'm supposed to be scared of and what I should measure out. I don't want to be told to be quiet because women are not supposed to shout. I don't want to live in a society where I don't see women in their power because they're not allowed to be. I want my kids to wake up and they want to be in NASA because they saw a woman in NASA.
Right.
I want them to be doctors because they saw female doctors.
Yeah.
And for as long as that reality doesn't exist, my work is still here.
True. That's so true.
And something Zaha said about bringing up children. I don't plan to have them, but for purposes of me being a mentor of children a lot of times in my life, I also want a society that ensures girl children no longer grow up in homes where their mothers tell them, cover up, your father is coming. I want to participate in ensuring girls know in your home you should feel the safest. And if your father is the rapist, bad feminists are needed because your mother should.
Yeah,
True. That's so true.
Yeah.
but equally to teach women to walk away.
Yeah, there's also that. But again, I feel like the way I look at feminism myself is a necessary evil. If we are an evil as feminists, and realistically, it's not about being a woman necessarily, because there are feminists who are men, and it should be as far as I'm concerned, everybody should be a feminist. Because feminism is a fight for equity in the communities, in society, globally. It's not something it should be women against men or me versus you. The only reason it exists, the only reason why we have to fight for ourselves is because of the existing system. So the oppression of women, the suppression of women's voices, constantly being managed and cancelled and provoked and told no you submit, you don't respond. That's what has put women in a fighting stance. Because right now, and it's a question I want to ask you guys, as young women in this country, I don't know where you feel safe, because you're being told not to go out, right? The current narrative is don't go to those Airbnbs. Don't go to those hotels, don't go to fine. But statistically, the biggest place where a woman is the least safe is in her home.
The
Right?
Biubwa case is a good example. She was beheaded in her kitchen.
Exactly.
Imagine.
Cooking for her
King
family, you know? So is it really true to say we are the ones looking for the issues? Like literally, why was she there? Why are you dressed like this? Why? The other thing I struggle with is also the concept of I should be dressed or covered up or dress a certain way so that I'm not harassed. Listen, even if you go out covered head to toe, where is it in this Nairobi that you can walk safely on the street?
Nowhere. Even it's Lee.
Where?
The truth is that it's that, like, literally it's nowhere.
Exactly.
Because even the premises under which women experience all this kind of violence. In the past, it has been easy to hide in she was putting on a short dress.
Yeah.
But if you truly, and I like starting from millennials going up, if you truly have existed within the 90s, the 80s and beyond, you know, back in the days, our parents, they show us pictures and they would walk around with crop tops and
hipsters.
The
all that
70s.
kind
We
of
are
stuff,
back in the
yeah.
70s as far as fashion
the
is
Madonna
concerned.
era and
Yeah.
people putting on, you know, backless stuff and going and having a good time and all that kind of stuff. So short dresses,
Was the standard
we
actually
didn't
on the
we
streets.
didn't
It's not
name
even
them
for partying.
miniskirts. We
Yeah.
found them being called miniskirts, which means
Yeah.
they've been in existence.
Mm.
We didn't come and decided wearing something short is now more provocative because of who we are. It has, if it's provocativeness of it, then it has always been there. So the real question, and we, as a society, we have refused to have an honest conversation about it, is at what point did men make it comfortable to turn on women? Because then culturally, if you look back, even how we dressed, our traditional outfits were non-existent.
Your boobs
Because
are out,
yeah.
I love that because the freedom. my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And even with that, men would still be very disciplined, and if he identifies, for example, a girl he likes, he would
Customs.
follow
Follow
the girl from a
exactly.
distance to
Yeah.
identify where she lives. He won't enter the compound. He'll go back to his home and tell his father, Dad, I've seen a wife.
Yeah.
I want us to go there and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And it's a whole culture thing.
it was very
And that's why when
respectful.
people say,
Yeah.
oh, do some things are cultures, I'm like, no. You see, one of the most dynamic concepts about life is that culture is very, even since we got here, we've created a culture. We've created a culture of how we'll manage this room and all that kind of stuff. And so culture is a thing that can be as late as yesterday, and it is still a culture. So to blame it on a thing that has been happening in the past, no, in the past, men respected women.
A lot.
Yeah.
In the past, men understood that women are human beings as well. In the past, men looked at women as creatures of value, not in the way men look
Our
at
leaders
women
and
now,
healers.
devaluing us. In the past, a hardworking woman was a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, when you're hardworking,
Yeah.
nobody is
feminist.
comfortable with you.
Exactly,
When you're
exactly.
successful at your
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
oh, but women are too emotional to be leaders. Well,
Yeah.
Ruto is not emotional. He's fucking us over and he's not feeling
He said he'll
anything.
say us to God, man.
Where is leadership without emotions a good thing?
Yeah.
Because we are seeing the things that are happening in the world. Leadership without emotions is why Israel is doing the things it's doing to Palestine. And for the last 70 years, it has been happening. And the one sitting at the center of that violence is women and children, and closely sexual and gender minorities, because these are people who, it's how the system is built. Even in the hierarchies, there's some people who are seen much better than other
There's
people.
always a
Men sit
devaluing
at
of
the top
certain
of that
people.
hierarchy, even more if you're a white man,
Yeah.
even more if you're a white man with audacity. and so it goes on and on and
Some
on.
stocks.
But
Yeah.
like the concept of it is that it has become normal. We wake up in the morning. There's a story that was posted yesterday and today, again by Osikimia, of a literal 6 or
Yeah,
or is it
9-year-old.
9-year-old
Yeah.
child. And she was playing, and then the people who are in charge of her figured, let's go call her to come eat or something. They didn't find her, and the following day she was found dead, defiled. And I'm like, there's no way you're convincing me.
Yeah.
Yes, the society is full of sick people, but geez, what is happening?
It's a rotten place.
What
Yeah.
is happening? Nobody recognizes that we are human beings. We have a voice. We can say things, but also nobody recognizes that we've become so bad that we live in a society we don't even respect children. Not even like protecting them, respecting them. Because we also know culturally, the way the culture is set up, children, not only are they protected, but they're also very much respected. And that's why there's a whole, system and culture that revolves around a child belongs to the society, because the role of protecting children and respecting children is something that is done communally.
For
because
us,
when your
it has
child
always traditionally
Yes.
been a
Yeah.
community responsibility.
because when your child leaves home to go play, they don't leave home to go play with. They go actually out in the community to meet other children, and it's the responsibility of a sane adult, a proper adult, to ensure these kids are safe.
Yeah.
But the fact that kids were playing and someone targeted a child, and took away that child and killed that child, and somehow as a society we are okay with saying, let's end femicide, let's protect women, but also let's go berserk and just harm women.
Yeah,
like who are we being protected from? Because the very people, even when you said it's true, all of us could be feminists, but where I am right now, men can't tell me they're feminists because it's so scary. Because if I dare believe that you're a feminist, I'm choosing to believe that I'm safe around you, but that's not guaranteed, and that's the problem. And nobody walks around with a tag that says, I'm a safe man, I'm a feminist, you'll be okay around me. Those that have harmed us are the ones that we least expected, the way you said. You're not safe anywhere, even in your own home. Statistically, more women are being killed by their husbands, by their partners. So if I was to remotely believe that truly men are feminists, you're really making me believe someone who is constantly pointing a gun on my head that I'm safe in their hands.
Again, what you're saying is basically the work is to them. They need to work hard to prove to us that I'm actually, because we keep saying, like you've said, not all men. But until you prove to me that you're not that guy, until you come up to me and show me, and it's not just about me being safe around you, it's you speaking up on our issues. Because it's you understanding that already, because of the way society is set up, by default, being born female is problematic by default, right? Because we've seen cases where even babies are defiled. You're 3 months old. What about a 3-month-old? Are you going to sit and say, because we're always blamed, it's either what you were wearing or where you were.
A 3-day-old
baby. A 3-day-old. What are we talking about here?
What
right?
was the baby wearing? Definitely the baby was fully covered up because it's a newborn baby.
Diapers are turned on now.
Right?
Like, what are we talking about, you know?
And
so it's problematic right from the roots, but it is where we are at. And like we were saying, it feels like it's the most dangerous it's ever been to just exist as a woman because I don't know where I'm safe. I'll bring up a case where we've always been attacked for the way we dress. Forget now where you are, but the way you dress. And so now us, this is where my age starts showing, us the older millennials.
I'm an older millennial too, so we are fine.
Yeah, so
I'm your biggest problem.
As the older millennials, during our time, so to speak, that was when we were watching women being stripped and beaten up on the streets for not covering up.
Just the other day, actually.
Right? You're not well dressed. You wanted us to see, so let us help you show us. However, now, very recently, we're having cases where women are being attacked for, in quotes, dressing like men. Okay? Here you're fully covered up. Your issue before was I was not covered enough. So you felt you needed to take away my dignity by stripping me on the streets. Now I've taken your advice. I'm fully covered up. But
you're
now
still
still attacking me.
See,
So
that's the problem. Like there's nothing. It's like there's nothing good women can do that can just let
That's
them
the
leave us
question,
alone.
exactly.
And how much more do we need to change and adapt for us to just comfortably exist?
But then that brings me to the question: are we the problem?
We're not.
When we're the ones who have to conform and contort ourselves just to be safe, just to get basic human dignities.
The question is right. However, you shouldn't be the one asking it. It shouldn't be asked in rooms full of women. It should be men asking those questions to each other.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why you'd be asking that question, because the answer is right there. I was saying, even with the not all men thing, okay, fine, it's not all men, but it's still men killing women. If you'd say not all men and then women stop being killed, then I'll be like, it's true, it's not all men. But like you're saying, not all men. First of all, I can't identify you. Second of all, the responsibility that is put on women. Oh, you should have known that man is a bad man. Literally, he didn't
walk around with
he didn't
X-ray
show
eyes.
up to me saying, giving me a memo and telling me, you see, I am gonna kill you. I'm a murderer.
I'd actually like for someone to explain to me, sorry to cut you off, how would I be able to look at a human, let's not even know, and say in my head, if I go to 12th floor with this person, they intend to throw me
Throw
off
me
the
out.
balcony.
Yeah.
Like, how is my mind supposed to
Important. And
somersault?
somebody had even asked the same question in our movement. Like, men scam even women, we scam each other. You meet me randomly as a woman, you don't know me, but you don't end up dead. You don't end up in
Exactly.
an Airbnb slit on the throat.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I have a very big problem with the joy apologists. It's like Kenya also has a lot of double standards. It's more of if the perpetrator is ugly, yeah, he should go to jail. If the perpetrator kidogo is light skinned, looks like this, has a gospel song and released on the day of sentencing, strategically, all of a sudden, okay, fine, he killed, but there's nothing like but. Jesus said forgive people, I think 70 times 7, something about the 7 mathematics. But importantly, it's for God to do that. It's for God to forgive and forget. As human beings, we have to carry on the burden. People forget the perpetrator will kill the victim, and then the victim has a family that has to deal with their death in the crisis of somebody life being taken away. And you would never feel that gap. You could never pay anything to feel that gap. And that's why even in the sentencing for Joy, however the amount of cash the law tells you to pay, you can never pay to the amount of somebody's life.
That's so true.
These conversations, just like Maryliz is saying, men should be the one now taking this conversation and actually having it, because if they're doing that to women, what are they doing to their fellow men?
That's the question.
What are they doing to fellow boys?
Yeah.
If we're counting, but I saw the 9-year-old case and the 3-year-old cases tells you a lot about how rotten this whole systemic issue is, and it's very systemic. We were doing an analysis on the prominency of these cases. We started with Joy. Joy's case, especially after the sentencing, we slowly saw a society that had condemned the case to a society that fully churned into supporting the perpetrator. And there was everything about, he changed, and it's very strategic for him to release a gospel song on the day of almost on the day of the sentencing. And you see, even if we were having a meeting the other day and we were just going through what the sentencing looked like and what made Justice Nzioka actually get to that point, and all other methods of sentencing being, carefully deliberated, he was not sorry about his murder. There was no remorse. Apart from that, the family itself did not want anything to do with him, because how else am I able to sit down with somebody who took my child's life anyway? But you notice when it comes to very prominent people being the perpetrators, the victim is actually not part of the discussion often than not. And it reminds me of Sharon's case. We were even told that the wife planned it. We were told about how she disappeared for a minute, and then Sharon's case disappeared.
Completely,
and then that really tells you also how easy it is for Kenyans to postpone women issues as well. It's like, we can deal with that later. And it's like we have a stockpile of a number that we want to get for us to have a crisis around women issues. It's been very clear we're a country that's also fighting FGM. We're a country that just was fully able to tell its people that you should stop stripping women in the streets because it's wrong. We're still the same country that's known to be very, very advanced in the continent. And so you really, again, come to question our advancements, because what exactly are we advancing if we're not also advancing the freedom and rights of women? If we form, like we were saying, if we form half the population of this country, why is it that more than half of the cases that are, of our victims are actually supposedly women? A majority of the cases that put men in prison are because they actually harmed women. So it says a lot about the society that we're living in. And just to retaliate on what Maryliz had said, Africa is a matriarchal continent. I don't know where people got this whole story for patriarchy on. If you go to the western sides of Africa, you find as far as the days of Mansa Musa, a majority of the kingdoms were led by women. Come to Egypt, the last reigning monarch was a woman. And you see, we only identify women with the Delilah story and Samson in the Bible because that's the only thing they can use to control us. But the measurement of what women are right now, I think also the hand picking of what correct cases are and what not necessarily correct cases are. And you see the fact that also there's a lot of sensationalization of women issues. It's like the pad drive, and I have nothing against it, but if you check, we're doing pad drives like it's a hot trend. When you come to the ground, I work in the ASALs around Wajir, Marsabit, going all the way to Samburu, Isiolo. And when you go there is when you realize period poverty is actually real.
Very real.
And just the other day that we're having places like, especially the Kisumu bait, the Lake Victoria bait, whereby we're having fish fish for sex with the girls. And it tells you a lot about how also the economic suffrage of women is actually a problem. And it might look as if, you know, this whole synthesis of women put themselves in places where they're harmed is very irregular. And again, it's because the systems do not allow women to also be in places where they are safe. Women, kitambo, we used to just, you know, we wake up in the morning, take care of kids, you know, do whatever. And they're very much respected because that was the essence of life, taking care of the community and bringing it to life. If women are doing that same thing right now, you actually, apparently, we have a new label called being a housewife. You're a kept housewife. And if you're working, you're a radical feminist, because why are you in the, you know, climbing up the economic ladder of you're a corporate girl. We have a name for everything that women try to be and do. And so it says a lot about how, again, even our existence and even us, you know, I think about extinction a lot. And I'm like, if anything, men can actually make women go extinct. Because places like Japan, where they do the 4B, it's like they decided, we're not going to give birth. We're not gonna do this thing. It ends here. Kenyan women, we don't want to be pushed to a place like that. But if worse comes to us, I think that is also something we can revisit. These men deserve nothing. And nobody can now come and tell us now again, as we're having this conversation, not all men synthesis only applies if you're a perpetrator. Otherwise, if there's nothing you feel guilty on, this is not a conversation that's supposed to strike you or, you know, ignite you in the wrong way. It's the same way. Not all of us women are being killed, but all of us are fighting the same battle, because I don't want to be a next statistic. Then therefore, as a man, if you don't want to be the next statistic of a perpetrator, then you should call out these things in advance. Because people are acting as if we're in different camps. So we're supposed to be in the same team. And a majority of the work we're doing, because people maybe look as if the movement is just trying to radicalize women into, you know, into being feminists. We had a petition and we took it through our Houses of Parliament. And you see, we put our legislators in motive, because even at the march itself, it's not the movement that booed at Pasaris. It's the people. And the question was simple: where have you been? And it's the same question we're asking. We're asking the religious leaders during, if you remember, the 2007, 2008 post-election violence. The Cardinal John Jue was amongst the first people to present, strike a deal, you know, shake hands and all that. Where are they now? When the half your members being women, where are you now when women are being killed? Where are you when we're being slit on our throats and buried in bathtubs? Where are you when young children are being defiled and killed? Where are you when the women who take up their sacrament and go back home are being beaten and battered by their husbands? And when they report to you, even in that confession box, you do nothing about it. Where are you when your Jumuiya women are meeting and they're crying to you that the men are changing? And it's because, again, when people are talking about men have mental health, we do too. And the anger women bear, if we were supposed to be murderers, we would have slaughtered everyone. But the fact that we're able to handle everything plus period cramps, if I could just raise it here, because we're talking about sexual reproductive health, you're dealing with a lot of things at the same time, and you still have to deal with the coexistence of somebody who cannot control their emotions, courtesy of them being men and them being along structures that facilitate that your anger mismanagement is something I have to pay for as a woman. It's a bit insane, and I'm just hoping, you know, as we continue, because again, we won't keep quiet here. As we continue, the narrative should quickly stop from making femicide. I'll speak for femicide specifically. Femicide should stop looking like it's a hot trend. It's not. It's a crisis that the government itself should actually take in notice. It's a security crisis, because if the government has not even dealt with the bandits themselves, the rest of the ruthless social bandits that we have across our country, if they're not dealt upon on a societal level as well, on a behavioral level as well, on a religious level as well, then I don't see where the national security system is supposed to be facilitated in a whole population full of perpetrators. It doesn't make sense to me.
You've brought up a very key point for me. We make up more than half of the society. Even globally, you look at the numbers. Women are half or more than half in the different countries in the world. But somehow we've been led to believe that we have to beg for crumbs when it comes to leadership.
Literally.
Somehow we've been made to believe that unless we create positions that are specifically for women, toothless ones, might I add, where you really have no change, and it's like we're doing you a favor. take these few seats and allow us to go, sit in your corner, be quiet now. So we've given you women reps.
Don't be an angry
What else are you
feminist.
making noise for? And I'll just use that to segue to the Young Women's Leadership Institute, and the work that's doing. So maybe tell us a little bit about the organization and the work you're doing, because again, in my research, just reading about it, I was like, I'm in awe that somebody has stepped up, and a few institutions exist now and organizations where we're empowering women from a very young age. So maybe tell us a little bit about the work that the organization is doing.
Yeah, so Young Women's Leadership Institute was founded in 1999, and it was founded on the basis that what Zaha was saying, that women are not capable of being in leadership spaces, women are not capable of leading, and also women are not interested in being part of, anything leadership. So the organization was created to create spaces to empower women personally and create a link for their feminist leadership. And it has been like 24 almost years. And, creating spaces where women can participate in policy processes, they can understand the policy processes. Women can just come together and, speak about the things that matter to us, because also during those times, I think that, it was really hard to be a woman who wants to be in leadership positions, to be a woman who wants to be...
Because also there wasn't any representation.
True,
that's the other reality.
And it's because the assumption that women are not really interested in being leaders. And also, if, I feel like they know...
that women are bad leaders.
We're emotional.
We're too emotional.
And also just that aspect of women being emotional, it really makes me... If we're emotional, how comes you cannot even control yourself when you as a man, you see a little girl passing and you're sexualizing the girl? Like, there was...
Who's the emotional one here?
Like, who's the emotional one here? You don't have emotional intelligence, first of all, because if you can't see this is a child and look at that person as a child, if you can't see a woman who's empowered, like a woman who's empowered and not as a threat, then it means there is really something wrong with you. So that is the work that we've been doing. So we have been working in various thematic areas, which is feminist leadership, and annually we usually have the Feminist Leadership Academy. Maryliz was part of. She's been also
Fantastic.
a facilitator. I mean, just amazing. And also we have sexual reproductive health justice, and on this part is we emphasize on the justice part, because most of the time when women and girls are assaulted, when they go through violence, they don't really get to the justice point. They don't really get justice. And also we work around campaign work, the work that we have been doing for a very long time, and it also brought together diverse women from all over Kenya doing very good work. And I mean, it really brought us to a point of, having a movement. And it has just been a really beautiful journey to see and be part of. So I got into YWLI when I was really young. I was still, I think, in primary school, and I used to attend like the SRHR talks, and they were really informative and really powerful, and they really like molded somehow my feminism, because like I got to view the world in a feminist lens, and was like, now when you're analyzing things, you're like, this is really interesting. And it has been really amazing, to work there, to connect with women from different diverse backgrounds, just to hear their stories, also just to feel empowered, and to see that we're really making a change, to see that something is really happening, to see that people are really hearing what we really need.
And I feel, to be honest, that the empowerment of women is the empowerment of the full society. Because the one thing you keep attacking us for is being emotional and being nurturing and being, the way women are. The reality about that is we are nurturers and we take care. There's no way you can tell me there's a woman who who's empowered, who rose up by herself.
Yeah.
You can count how many people are riding on her back, how many people she's supporting, how many kids she's taking to school, how many children or even young girls she's impacting their lives back in her community. First of all, by being a figurehead, so that I can see what I can aspire to, but also coming back into the population and saying, listen, I grew up with these guys and this is what is missing. And it is my job now to make sure all these facilities are available for them. And I've never really seen a space where a woman who rises up and it has community behind her and is leading from literally from the back, pushing everyone along with her, and we still sit there and say women will be bad leaders. It boggles my mind. That is that's a challenge.
We always are the ones who lead our homes. Who is the one who's always like, what are we going to cook, mom?
What are we eating? Who needs
like
to be in
the
school
house is
on which
untidy.
day?
Exactly.
Like,
it's the women who are
what are you
always-
wearing to work tomorrow? School time.
Are your clothes clean?
Exactly.
I mean, if one day women just decide we're not going to make breakfast, we're not going to cook, we're not going to iron your clothes, we're not going to clean your clothes, and let's say maybe let's say maybe you're the MP and just decide that we're not going to do all this thing, and maybe you have like a press briefing or something, you'll just go there looking untidy, and who'll be blamed? Still your wife, your woman.
Ironically.
I mean, it's so crazy.
Don't have a wife, don't have a proper wife.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same way FGM had a whole rise because the Morans were identifying the correct woman to marry as a woman who has been cut.
Yeah.
And you see, just because of that identification, women would rally their daughters for that cut, courtesy of them to just get married. So I think also men should, and I think it's a conversation I've even had with my siblings. I have a brother, he's a Form 4 candidate, and one of the few things I kept telling him, you need to identify your strength as a man outside the spectrums of violence. You see, by the time they get to primary, and the first thing is that, you know, if I'm able to beat this boy in this school, then I'm the strongest boy in school. That we need to dissociate men's strength from violences, because that's the root cause of the problem. Because even when they get to the marriage part, if I want to create a form of control in the house, it's to give my wife one slap, is to beat up my kids. So that is a form of fear. And by virtue of us having fear centralized around what masculinity is, it's exactly why they can't get to their divine self. And that's why you're having very toxic, sick men around. You know, that identification is a bit too weird. Once they really associate, you know, emotional intelligence with being a man, because men are very emotional, they should accept that. It's the reason why they have actual physical organs to even manifest it physically. It's you need to, as a divine masculine, for example, just as the same way divine women come together in organizing and make sure they speak up for themselves, men should call out those toxic traits that make them identify with perpetrators. Then therefore we can be able to talk to men from a centralized point of who men really are. But now we're dealing with a bigger majority which happens to be perpetrators, whether they like it or not. And the identity of perpetrators is same thing. Violence is both verbal, physical, psychological. You have these people who can just torment you without saying anything, you know, and they know it's something that they have. And as women, as the emotional beings, oh my God, like it doesn't sit well in my head. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense.
There's this meme that goes around, and I'll feed off of what Zawede was saying, but there's this meme, and again, it shows how sick of a twisted society we are. It shouldn't be a meme, but it says, ask a cis heterosexual man to identify his ideal woman and watch him describe a slave. Yeah, because he will say everything around.
Should be submissive,
one who can clean, submissive, be the
like
mother to my
I'm a trust
children.
fund, if I'm a trust fund baby and I don't know how to
Not
cook,
even all those.
No.
Even
all of a sudden you're not a wife.
even if I was born and raised in probably the most poverty-stricken county of this country, it doesn't mean it's worth of me being someone's slave. But so the society has taught men to see themselves as the prize and to see women as the slave that elevates them to that prize stage that they are in life. And so essentially with Young Women Leaders Institute, the concept of it is, in a society that tells women, turn it down a notch, you're too loud, you speak in a lower tone, you're too outgoing, don't do it too much, good girls don't go out every weekend and all that kind of stuff. Young Women Leadership Institute is saying, because the leadership, there's many ways to describe leadership. It's sad that we live in a world where when you say leadership, people only think the political kind, right? But what we do is making sure we empower, and I'm not a big fan of the word empower really, but making available the tools that young girls need to be able to understand that leadership is standing in the light of your power, like whatever that looks like. And just because you're young, just because you're a child, just because, you know, I see a lot of people, for example, I've known Zaha since Zaha was, what, 19? 18. And a lot of people like commenting and telling Zaha, you're so young, you're so brave. And I'm like, that is a backhanded compliment.
Why is that a bad
Literally, because if today a person who is the same age as Zaha, but is a man, comes up and is bold and vocal and smart and intelligent and, you know, doing what, okay, I don't know who will say what right is, because at this point it's confusing, but going by women, doing what women would consider right in the society, this person will be elevated, will be put in places, will be celebrated, and no one will remember to say their name. You're a man, I'm proud of you, and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to women, is when you say, you're so young, and I'm like, the age is not a descriptor of whether, as long as Zaha is above 21 years old or 18 years old, one for voting, one for aspiring for any political office and all that kind of stuff, you're good to go. You're literally good to go. And no one should keep on making you feel like because you're young, it's the culture that has been created where old people hold spaces, hold offices, stay until they literally can't breathe and they're in office. Where young people, nurses are being told, you're supposed to work without wages, right? Everyone who is giving
doctors as well, actually,
a university graduate a position, they'll be like, you know, it will give you exposure, it will make you, you know, be seen and people know. And I'm like, I have friends. I have a friend called Mercy. Hi, Mercy. She started making her first salary when she was barely 18 years old. And she has lived in a society where women believed in her, women held her, women understood that this is a person who is powerful, has it in them to be the greatest person that they can. And at a young age of less than 30, the level she's at, there's so many people who can't just like talk to her like a random person, because and it's not because she tells people you can't talk to me, it's because of her brilliance and because she has women, she stands on the shoulders and the strength of women who held her and told her it's okay to be great. Age is not a determinant of how great you can become. You can become very great at any age, right? And she's excelling in her career and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we try to embody at YWLI, that there is no right time to become a leader. There is no right age to become a leader, that you can become a leader at any point. That, while also having conversations, being in spaces where we have conversations about intergenerational gaps. We have a lot, like I said, older people. I remember in 2019, I was in a meeting, a CSW meeting, and there's this lady who kept on repeating, you know, for the last 20-something years, I've been coming to CSW without missing a year. And I was like, what do you have to show for it, other than the white hair that you've grown, traveling to New York every year for CSW? And I, of course, I didn't have a good time there because it was a conversation about intergenerational gaps, and there was a good number of older women there. And the concept of it, they like saying, is to sit and teach. And I'm okay with being taught. I'm also a product of feminists, activists who have gone before me and have taught me. But the fact that you think going to the same meeting to speak about women's issues the last 20 years, yet instead of the line graph going upwards, it's going downwards, there's so much to be said about you. And the point isn't going for these meetings all the time. The point is the impact. Why is it possible that all these spaces, all these things are happening, but still, when it comes down to the wire, every declaration that comes out, because all these meetings have declarations, policy declaration, and the implication of it is that it has, bills that different governments are supposed to take up and all that kind of stuff. The saddest thing is, women will go. Women will participate in what they like calling side events. Women will participate in everything outside of the real conversation. The amount of women who are let in are the women who need to understand people who shouldn't be understood, are the women who have a capacity. Like, I know for a fact, unless I become an ambassador, which I don't have aspirations for that, of this country, I know I don't aspire to be in those rooms because it's men in suits making decisions. And we begin to ask ourselves, where is it going wrong? When we are having a crisis about SRH in Kenya at the moment, do we stop to ask ourselves how much of it is an impact of, for example, Roe versus Wade, which is something we were never in the rooms when that decision was made years ago, and then we were not in the room last year and the year before when the decision was being made. But the impact is crazy, and a lot of things, and a lot of things that are happening right now when it comes to access, when it comes to, just like, women living in a society where affordability of accessing SRH is a thing that they can speak about without worry and all that kind of stuff, because we have a government system that caters for that. That is not even the conversation, and nobody seems to care about that. And when we are having, and I love the name of your podcast, circling around the rabbit hole. We have created a culture of, we know the problem is that extension over there, but we will do everything. We will check the walls. Like, you can see the problem is,
walk outside onto the
call
balcony.
plumbers to come and make noise, and it's the extension that is the problem. Get rid of the extension. But we are not okay with that. And so knowing that we are growing up in such a society, we are growing up in a society where men can be literally anything they want to be, including murderers, including, pedophiles, including rapists, including, all these things. And then women are literally just fighting for a chance to exist. It's not safe to be a parent. It's not safe to be a corporate girlie. It's not safe to be employed. It's not safe anywhere. Everyone sees an opportunity to harm women. We ask ourselves, what can we do? And it's sad that we have to work around bringing up girls that are resilient and are aware of this environment, because it shouldn't be the case. But then that is the thing we have to do, because we need more voices. We need more women coming up to take up leadership in whatever form, in whatever capacity. We need a society that doesn't keep on saying, oh, but women have 47 women reps. In the parliamentarians, they don't even cover even a third of the number required to make any decision. So to make decisions. So, like, what do you mean we have 47? Also, the role you gave them is almost a replicated role, because they're like parliamentarians, but we already have parliamentarians, which for the better part, I don't know how many counties are lucky to have both member of parliament and women rep being women, because most of the time women rep is a woman, definitely, but every parliamentarian is a man. Every parliamentarian is a man, so and we know what kind of power dynamic that plays and what role it plays even in the change we try to seek and all that kind of stuff. So to say, not only do we want more women to be women reps and all that kind of stuff, but we also want more women to be members of parliament, more women to be presidents, more women to be vice presidents, more women to be, governors and senators, more women to be MCAs, so that when we go actually to the Senate, to the county assembly, to the National Assembly, we have women. Because, like you said, it's rarely would a woman succeed at life and succeed alone. And the most interesting thing is, mostly by virtue of how we are set up in the society, women would even cover their sons more than they would cover their daughter. They would protect their sons more than they'd protect them. So a woman being elevated, automatically a man is safe. Automatically, well, we can have a conversation about that. Girls are safe and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, it's a much more safer bet than if we continued having a conversation and betting on women can't be leaders. Because truthfully, women are leaders. The reason the real estate industry is functional is because women are making it possible. If women were not holding up homes, where would real estate developers get their houses to be rented out at? Literally, it's because of women. Even a man a cheating man would still put a family there and go find another family and put in another place and in another place. It's all, the whole economy is sustained by women existing and being women, like I said, and men being taught whenever they have to choose an ideal woman, even their mothers, even their siblings, they will still describe as slave. Because they think she has to be these specific things.
I have to have control over her.
Yes.
Basically. It's usually the premise, basically.
And one thing about what you said, which really, really breaks my heart, is that the number of like leaders are men, most of them, right? And most of our laws are made by men. And most of the laws that are made on women are made by men who don't really even understand what it feels like to be in this body. So it's really heartbreaking to have like the most number of people who are in power who are men, and like they're making decision based on their masculinity and all that, just not even thinking about how it's important to empower these women and give them the spaces to be in these leadership positions because they deserve it. It's not like I'm doing you a favor, like you said.
It's not like I didn't go to school.
I'm a voter like you. I mean, I pay taxes
I'm educated
like you.
I pay the same taxes. We're not asking for favors. We're just asking to be in that space so that we can actually look after you as well. Okay, I feel like we could go on and on and on because, again, the people in this room are not the ones who are the problem. And so this conversation, we sort of end up being on the same page. But just for us to wind up, and maybe I might have to have you guys back on for another episode just because this conversation, there's still so many avenues and so many different ways in which we can have it. So just as a parting shot, in as much as I find it problematic to ask the victims for the solutions, the ones who are suffering, because that's what tends to happen. Women talk about what we would like to see or what changes need to be made in a space that doesn't include the perpetrators, as you said. But in this scenario, because that's who is in the room with me, I'll go around, maybe I'll start from my farthest. Coming back
I was even helping you look at Zawede.
So, just final messaging would you like to say to a young girl or young woman who's watching or listening to us today in terms of, I guess, a word of encouragement, because we are the persecuted ones. So I feel like even for me, even considering myself as a strong woman, it's disheartening to the point where sometimes you just feel like there's no hope or you can't wrap your head around a solution at this point. But just as a parting shot from each one of you, say something to that young girl who's listening in today from your point of view.
I think I'll put my younger self also as the young listener. I know you're tired as a young person of hearing the same things over and over again. But I think for me, a point of reminder is that the love for oneself should help you go through this over again. We women are known to outpour even from empty cups. So remember to fill up your cup because we need you alive. You're better off. We keep saying that even at the moment, you're better off alive. You're of value alive. We rather not have you as a statistic once again. And so keep standing up for the power of truth. Continue speaking your mind because you're just as great as you think you are. Keep fueling conversations that allow the woman next to you to be safe as you are next to them. Security starts with you, but it also starts with the person right next to you. And potentially, as you walk around in the growth of what being a woman is, never forget that being a woman is beautiful. And nothing about what women have to go through should necessarily help you see and view yourself to that degree. What we go through has nothing to do with who we are. And in that particular pursuit, keep up with the fight of recognizing that you are just as powerful, beautiful, in your existence as you can possibly be. Because I feel when I was growing up, I didn't have that reminder as much. Of course, our parents raised us in the best way that they know, but the society didn't have that reminder to remind me that I'm a girl and that's okay. And therefore, for young people, it's okay for you to be a woman, and it's beautiful in its existence.
It's a beautiful message. Maryliz?
I think not necessarily for my younger self. I made it here, so I'm doing myself proud already. But for my younger siblings out there, girls especially, your power is innate. You don't need someone to give it to you. Neither does anyone's actions take away your power. And the experiences you have are valid. It's the violence that tries to invalidate all your experiences. It's the violence that is meted against you from when literally you're born. It's when you're born and the society believes being a boy child is better than being a girl. You literally, that is not who you are. You're born with the power that you have. The constant need of the society to tame you, to manage you, to silence you, to make you turn it down a notch is a mindfuck, for lack of a better word. And your power and your audacity makes people mad, makes men show just how much emotional they are because they're brought up to believe they're not emotional. But trust me, your power makes them very emotional, hence the violence. So despite the violence that we're living in, hard as it may be, the uncertainty, the waking up every morning and wondering, is this the day? It could be. I mean, I'm stepping out today, so I don't know. Lucky for me, I don't live with a man in my house. But unlucky for me, I also have to struggle with being in an environment that I would want to ask, am I safe here? Is everything okay? And all that kind of stuff, given, you know, being a queer person, being a human rights activist, being a feminist, and all that kind of stuff. So I still have to worry about all those things. And this outside world, we are not responsible for pacifying the world. We are not responsible for making the world feel better about themselves. We are responsible for being, for living, for you know, showing our light. And all that is innate. You're born with it and you have it. I hope the life that you live, the people that you interact with, I hope nobody takes that light from you.
Beautiful. Right, so Zawede,
Thank you.
you're winding us down now.
Yeah. Me, I would love to quote my song, and I'll tell you to bloom. Just become your truest and highest self. Let no one limit you. Let no one define you. Let no one actually define for you who you are. Just define yourself. Find yourself. Confine yourself. Just be your truest and highest self. Just be your being. Be true to yourself. And I know it's hard sometimes when constantly society is telling you who you should be. It's so hard sometimes when you're living in a space where you're trying to breathe, you're trying to find air. It's so hard when you're living in times like this, but you have to remember your home is your body. You have to remember that there is no one who will ever love you as much as you love yourself. So you need to give yourself that love. You need to remember that you're so powerful. That is why people are trying to, you know, destroy you. That is why people are trying to make you feel small. But just remember that it is you to define for yourself who you want to be. Let no one just tell you you should be like this, you shouldn't be like this. Just be whoever you want to be. Don't limit yourself as to what you should be. Dream big. Dream so big. It can be, you know, you might think that these things are not possible for you and you feel that maybe you don't deserve it, but you deserve all the good things. You deserve love, you deserve care, you deserve to be free, and you deserve to be liberated. Yeah.
I love that. Such beautiful messages. Personally, I will be saving and rewatching this episode just when days are rough, just to remind myself the same. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for you guys joining me on set today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and for bravely being yourselves, staying true to who you are and being the future these younger girls need to see. So thank you for the hard work that you're doing. I want to say that from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the audience as well. For everybody who's tuned in this week, thank you for staying on till this point. I appreciate you. I will remind you to please subscribe, please share this episode widely, and please leave a comment, send the DMs and the emails. I feel like my audience are more private, shy people. It's fine. Please send them in, and we'll address them in future episodes. And if you'd like to see them back on, tafadhali, just say the word. Thank you once again, and I'll see you again next week.